Hey, I'm Ryan. Thanks for joining me here today. This video is going to be helpful for you if you're changing the hood or hatch struts on pretty much any vehicle, but it's going to be particularly interesting for you if you need to replace the hood struts on a Fox Body Mustang that's equipped with an MRT Hood Strut Kit. All right, let's get going. All right, so I'm here with my 1987 Mustang. Now, about 7 or 8 years ago, I installed a hood strut lift kit from MRT. So this kit was fantastic. It was super easy to install, and being able to get rid of that hood prop rod that just was always in the way was a huge benefit. It made it so much easier to work on the car. For 3 or 4 years, everything was perfect with the kit. I loved it. And then what happened was I started to notice that in the mornings or in the evenings when the temperatures were a little bit cooler, the hood would sort of start to creep down, and I'd have to always kind of keep my eye on it. And then as time continued to go on, in the spring and the fall, I would have problems like that more and more, even in the middle of the day. Just as the temperatures were cooler, sometimes that hood would just fall when I wasn't underneath of it, or fall when I was underneath of it. And I started looking for a solution to this problem. Now, I had heard that if you phone MRT that they can make recommendations for you based on different strut kits for different hoods, or even sometimes sell replacement parts. But when I was looking for that, they didn't have that option on their website, although they do now. So what I started to do was basically look for different struts that I could use to replace the MRT struts. And the research eventually led me to a post on an internet forum where somebody was replacing the hood struts on their SN95 Mustang. And they included a part number. I wasn't really sure if that SN95 part was going to fit my Fox body or not. So I looked up the part number that was provided, and I got the dimensions for the part. And then I pulled one of my struts off and I took the measurements. And I was able to determine that the length and compression size of that strut were basically the same as what I was looking at. The only thing that I couldn't figure out about was the compression, or the actual strength. However, the problem that the original poster had was that they were actually looking for a strut that was more powerful, and the part number was for one of the more powerful struts. So I took a chance, I ordered that part number, and was able to install them on my Mustang. So in my case, and in most other Mustang cases I believe, the MRT strut kit uses a 10mm ball and socket combination. So attached to the car is a bracket that has a 10mm ball on it. The strut has a 10mm socket, and then across the back of that socket there's a spring. And in order to remove the strut, all you need to do is loosen up that spring, pop the socket off the ball, and then put the new strut in place. In order to get that spring off, a lot of people just pry on the very back side of that spring, which can work, but you're going to scratch a lot of stuff up, and it's not necessarily the easiest way to do it. So what you can actually do is, along the spring that goes at the back, there's a little slot that's above and below the spring on each side. If you take a screwdriver and kind of put it in that slot and then just push on that spring, it'll just naturally pop out of the way, and it's a much easier way to do that. Once you have the spring removed, pop the strut off of the ball and slap the new one in place, and you're ready to go. So the hood strut that I bought was a part number 4513. Now that part number seems to be fairly generic, and it seems to be used across different manufacturers and different part suppliers. So I'm sure that you can find one. It has a extended length of 12.5 inches, a compressed length of a bit over 8 inches, and 120 pounds of force. Now these struts seem to be a little bit longer than the originals that were in the car, and I'm not sure if that's because I measured them wrong, or if the specs are just slightly different, or maybe because my old ones were worn out, they were just a little bit looser and extended a little bit more and compressed a little bit more. One of the concerns that I had when I installed this hood scoop on my car last year was that the hood struts would not be able to support the additional weight of that. Now, I was already having problems in cooler weather, spring, fall, morning, evening, with my hood not being able to stay up before I put the hood scoop on. But during the day, those struts, as weak as they were still able to support the additional weight of this hood scoop. But I like having the added pressure, 120 pounds of pressure on these new struts. From what I can find out, the original MRT hood struts had about an 80-pound lift pressure. So this is significantly more. And I hope that in addition to not having any issue lifting the hood with the hood scoop on it and being able to work better in the spring and the fall and morning and evening, that they'll last a lot longer too. They're just hopefully going to be a little bit more life in them with the additional pressure. All right, that was it. Short video today. Part number 4513 is the number that worked for me to replace my MRT struts on my Fox Body Mustang. And I hope that that's a helpful part number for you. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and have a great day.